Okay, hi. I think this is working. Um, I just have my headphones in to try and listen to see if the stream starts. So, I'm trying out this new thing, and I wanted to set it up like it was a real show. Crap. How's this? Check, check. All right. Sorry, just figuring this out. It's brand new. Okay, cool. So I think everything's working. So yeah, I got a new little setup, and it's pretty sweet because I was able to get a new desktop and get OBS just today. I loaded it up, and so I want to get back into streaming again. The last time I was on was over a year ago, and I was pretty optimistic in my last stream, and things really kind of hit the shit hit the fan for me personally. But you know, sometimes you have to go through tough stuff, and that's okay. So I titled this stream. It's my Repo Man stream, and I had just been reminded of this movie. It's an old movie. It's from 1984, the year I was born, and I just had my 40th birthday a few months ago, and it has been an interesting year for me, for sure. But in my chat and in my description, I listed some links to watch Repo Man. You could buy it, rent it on Amazon Prime. I'm sure you can find other ways to watch it, but that's how I watched it today for the first time. Um, Pretty entertaining, uh, and I got the inspiration for the stream from Bruce MacDonald. Hey CJ, thank you for being here. I loved your stream the other night. So thanks to CJ, he did a reading maybe a couple weeks ago, and that reminded me that I needed to get back into this. So thanks for being here. That's amazing. I didn't think anybody would actually be here for this one, but it's great that you are. Anyway, I've been listening to a channel just the last day that my friend recommended, a guy named Bruce MacDonald. He's got some really interesting ideas, and I like to make sure that I'm not stuck listening to people that I strictly agree with. This is why I'm just kind of always trying to find new stuff and just, ponder it. So Bruce MacDonald has some really interesting things. I posted a link to his episode called Repo Man. And the reason he brought it up was because he thought it was very timely for right now. Like maybe 40 years ago, it was a little obscure and people didn't quite get it. But yeah, my dog doesn't like me talking to myself. So So you hear my dog walking around and crying, but he's fine. Um, anyway, Repo Man, it was really funny to watch that because I probably heard the name before and I've never seen it. So, I'm not going to talk too much about that except to say that it was interesting that I had just discovered this guy, Bruce MacDonald, and he mentioned this totally obscure movie that's recently been added to the Centurion collection, the catalog of all the best movies. And he thought it was a surprising movie to be included in that list. But once he watched it, he was impressed by it, and so was I. But Bruce MacDonald also mentioned a podcast on the concrete with Danny Jones. He interviewed a guy that I had just listened to on another podcast called Third Eye Drops, and I have my pictures of the book on screen, but I ordered all three of this guy's books because I thought that the conversation on Third Eye Drops was so interesting. Bruce heard him on Concrete podcast, so I included links to both of those longer format interviews with Dr. Michael P. Masters. And this is where the Repo Man film ties in to just, I guess, the synchronicity that, everybody's talking about aliens and all that stuff so much, especially the last few years. And Dr. Michael P. Masters, his premise is he's a tenured professor at a college in Montana, and he is an evolutionary biologist, I believe. And he thinks that these UFOs, identified flying objects, he calls them, he thinks they could be humans from the future, coming back to now, traveling back in time. And not to spoil too much about Repo Man, but that is suggested in Repo Man that that's a possibility, that these UFOs are time machines. So I just think that's an interesting take on it, and maybe that film influenced Michael Masters. Maybe this is a thought that many others have had for many decades since these sightings have been documented. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about these books. I haven't even read them yet. The first one is the Identified Flying Objects, the one with the white cover. This one was published in 2019. This one just really goes in depth with his whole theory. And then the extraterrestrial model is filled with case studies of individuals that have had these encounters. And then the third book, he published most recently, Revelation, The Future of Human Past, is a satirical novel, and I love it because on the cover it's Jesus, and he's you can't really see it, he's flipping us off, And actually, my daughter read this book and she loved it because it was so crass and filled with curse words. And she's so young, she was embarrassed. She, she didn't want her teacher to know what that book was actually about, but she put it down on her book list, presuming that her teacher probably will not read it or look into it. But I do look forward to reading these books. I've been reading a lot the last year, and trying to get a mix of things, watching just whatever new TV shows are coming out that look interesting. Penguin, I'm in the middle of. That's a guilty pleasure. I just watched Bad Monkey because when I was younger, I read a lot of Carl Hiaasen books, and that's the book that series is based on, with Vince Vaughn, and he's hilarious. So I just finished watching Bad Monkey, and it's all about Florida because Carl Hiaasen was a journalist in Miami. So all of his books, he wrote Striptease. That film is based off of one of his books, and then he has a bunch of others that are just hilarious, and they're all based around just wacky situations and people in Florida where I grew up. So I'm glad that I read all of those when I was young, because I think when shit gets crazy, my defense mode is to try and laugh through all the, to always try and find the bright side of things. So, with everything that's going on right now in the world, it's always been crazy. But, with election season and just our particular politics in the U.S., the last number of years, things I think are definitely bizarro world to the max. And I was talking to a friend this weekend about how, film and everything is just getting so hyper weird. And that then we were scrolling, like trying to find a movie to watch, and the description of like 10 movies we looked at said mind-blowing. So that was his joke, was like, yeah, when things get just too weird, then everything's going to evolve to mind-blowing. So I think that is just kind of a funny take on what's going on these days. Like, I never would have believed that, like, Dick Cheney and George W. Bush would be supporting a Democratic candidate for president. I never would have imagined like a guy with dementia being able to serve for 4 years in office. And I definitely never thought I would have preferred Donald Trump over the other buffoon candidate. I mean, they're both buffoons in my opinion. So it really is a crazy ass time. And if you can't laugh, then I don't know, you must be freaking out right now. But there's definitely a lot of reasons for people to be freaking out, and lately I've been trying to get out back into the world after years of hermit mode. And I do appreciate that, at least for me, I've been able to find some refreshing kind of dialogues with people, folks that that maybe I don't agree with them on everything, but they're still willing to speak about the nuance of things, because it it just social media is so tricky, and our new age of technology and everything is such a challenge for personal relationships, because on one hand it gives us these incredible ways to connect with people from all over the world, and lucky for me, the people that speak English elsewhere in the world. And I just met a friend in Salt Lake that I'd never known before this year, and he's originally from Russia, but he's been in the U.S. for like 20 years, and he's such an interesting person. And one thing he does on his Facebook that I find really funny, I did get back on Facebook because I wanted to start following local bands again. And that was something I used to do when I was a lot younger, is go out and support as much local music as I possibly could. And so I've been going to see a lot of live shows just from some local bands. One of my friends has been in a band for years now, and I started going to his shows and then just making more friends with local musicians. And it's a trip, because I think in real life you can still find some connections with people that you may disagree with them, but you can still get along. And social media just seems to make it seem so one, you feel like you can just kind of blast your opinions at people, and I don't think people really usually do that in real life, although it is scary to think that as we maybe devolve out of thinking more or less for ourselves, that people just parrot shit, and they just kind of double down on their shitty positions rather than want to have any kind of discourse. So that's the one thing that I'm trying to find people that are in real life that are willing to have discourse about things, because I don't know that any of us are certain about anything unless we've experienced it for ourselves. And if we're not willing to share our experiences, then no one else can learn from us. But it's also pretty scary. The last stream I did was just after attending a wedding with my husband's family. And I was really excited because they had not wanted to hang out with us at all because of the shots. We didn't get shots, and they didn't want us hanging around for like 2 years until some of that stuff settled down. And so we finally got to go to this wedding and see everyone. And at the time, I know I was just amped up in that last video. I was so relieved that I felt like we had gone through some of the hardest times ever and gotten through it and been able to reconcile with people. And then shortly after I made that video, my husband asked me to get separated, and now we're divorced. And we've been divorced now since July. So this whole year for me was just completely insane, because I never ever expected that to happen with us. And I think we dealt with it as well as you can, and our kids are fairly young and seem to be adjusting okay. And for me, it was a really hard adjustment because I was not used to being alone, except maybe when I would drive to work, or, occasionally I would close myself in my room and ask for my own personal time. But besides going out to occasional classes or going to work, I had really gone into hermit mode because of COVID, losing my work just initially because everything was shut down. And then I lost a lot of my job opportunities because I wouldn't get a shot. And they were required for work in all of sports broadcasting. And that had been my life since I was like 17. I worked for the Jazz since I was in high school. So in the broadcast team. So, that was a really, really tough time for me to adjust from everything, even before my husband wanted to get separated and then divorced. So, hindsight always teaches us maybe where, like, you can either look at something as regretful, but I tend to always, I've definitely made mistakes in my life, but I try to learn from them, and I think I'm doing a pretty good job holding up. I'm still working for this company where all I do is scoop dog poop, and yet it's so chill. My company's taking care of me. They gave me a raise, and I get to drive their company car, and my clients are happy, and it's just really nice to have a job that can be a little bit flexible. I can go to school field trips and take the kids to school and pick them up and spend the evenings with them every other week. I have them, and then when I don't have them, I've been adjusting to, appreciating that time alone sometimes, and I feel really fortunate for everything that I do have, because I've had so much great support, and it really taught me to discern the relationships that I wanted to invest in. And some of those were relationships with people online, just friends, just getting to talk to people online that had common interests. And so I had a really weird year of ups and downs, but it did get me out of hermit mode, because I realized I didn't want to just sit at home all day and be alone with the dogs. I love the dogs. I love my house. But I rediscovered a lot of my passions that I had when I was younger. I was always interested in doing art, just kind of for fun. I never studied any art professionally or dedicated myself to really being serious about it. But the last few months especially, I've been able to be really creative, writing in a little journal, trying to write some stories, reading a ton of new books and some of my old books that I've had on the shelves for years. I've been able to have some really great times going back out to shows, listening to live music, reconnecting with some old friends, making some new ones. It's just been surprisingly great, despite the clown show that the world seems to be in the middle of. I'm so grateful that CJ's here chiming in on my chat, because yeah, it is important to embrace new chapters. And it's hard. It's hard to go through those those moments if it's something that happens to you unexpectedly. You don't have much of an opportunity for that anxiety, uh and like if you know you need to make a change in your life in advance, but that can be a really hard time because you need to do it, but you're just waiting. uh you feel you I can always justify not making moves. um and so sometimes, yeah, we get forced into those things, and that can be really tough when you're just blindsided by it. um but either way, the catalyst comes about, maybe you just have an epiphany and you're like, oh, um I know I need to make this change, and I'm just gonna go for it. And whatever that is, and I've been thinking a lot about this for many, many years, but especially the last few months, is like I knew that I was healing and getting better when I wanted to listen to music and could just kind of sing to myself and had like a bounce in my step again. And that to me is always amazing. Like, I don't think depression is always bad when, of course, you're able to still function in your life and not get too dark and down into it. But then you realize, oh man, I didn't know how crappy I was feeling until I felt better. And that's how it's always been for me. So I just wanted to get back into this kind of groove because back in 2022, 23, I was trying to stream a lot. And it was very helpful for me. My original motivation for doing any kind of YouTube channel at all was, maybe this is something just my kids look back on and they see mom when she was younger, and when the times when they were growing up, and that they could have a little bit of context for our lives at that time. I don't want to get too personal into like every detail of my personal life or theirs, but I thought it would be a cool way to sort of do a public journal, because I've always wanted to write, and I've always enjoyed discussions with people. And I think sometimes you can be around folks that are just always talking at you, and because I can be such a blabbermouth, I thought, well, okay, if this is my own channel, this is my opportunity to talk at people. But not in the same way as if you think you're in conversation with somebody else, but they won't let you get a word in edgewise. But the big topic of conversation I had this last Friday night when I went out was talking to folks about authenticity. And I know that we all put on these different masks and personas for work. You have to, unless you're just a jerk all the time and you never change your voice to talk to a customer. It's not like I talk crap about people. I don't pretend to be nice to their face and then talk shit to them. Talk shit behind their back. But But a lot of us do that, you know, and my joke for years, especially working around guys in broadcasting, was like, you talk shit to your friends too, you know, in that loving way. But it seems like that is sort of lost online. It's lost in the social media space. Um, People get really sensitive about everything, and I feel like we're losing a lot uh, in these spaces where we don't have the opportunity to come around full circle. And so I'm hoping to preserve that in real conversations with people, whether it be online or face to face. You know, with my kids, I try and be very very open with them about, you know, I'm not perfect. I don't know everything. I'm your mom and I'm trying my best, and you know, I love them, so I want what's best for them, but they don't always understand that. And sometimes I have to own up to, like, oh yeah, you know, I was wrong, but I want to try better next time. But it really does worry me with with the stuff about um, the politics that, you know, everybody says like they have their one core kind of issue that makes them lean towards maybe one candidate or another. There's like that dividing line, and women tend to focus on like one woman's issue. And I've always been an advocate for personal freedom as long as it doesn't harm somebody else. So I've had some great concerns over a lot of the trends when it comes to things like trans uh, kid stuff in particular, because I just don't want kids to do anything that's permanent to their bodies, you know. And I've always had so many different friends from all kinds of uh, places in life, age, gender, sexual preference, whatever, economic, socioeconomic class, politic positions. I've always been really fortunate to have been around a lot of different people. Growing up in Orlando, I grew up in a diverse community, and my family is really mixed. My parents have been divorced my whole life. They are on two totally different ends of the spectrum politically. And I just went to go see my dad in California last month with the kids. And we disagree on a lot of the time. But we were talking about, like, if there's a nuclear bomb, we all tend to think, me, my dad, my mom, what we do agree on is we're probably running toward the bomb, because I don't want to live in that aftermath, you know. And that sounds like a very sick joke, but you know, some people, it seems like they just want to live forever, but what's their quality of life? You know, our current president has been Weekend at Bernie's for years, and I have no respect for the people letting him be out there making himself just, it's embarrassing, but he doesn't even know to be embarrassed. And I just think that's sad. Fuck policies and politics. Like, that alone is just a tragedy. But I think politics, these people are just, you know, they are not my heroes, but I hope us peons can, keep some of our humanity, despite all the propaganda and crap that they feed to us, And anyway, especially when it comes to stuff like speaking about the aliens, I really appreciated the Michael Masters talk on Third Eye Drops, and that's a really interesting podcast. I'm not one of those people that I'm not a drug person. I tend to look like a hippie chick, and I used to smoke pot a lot, but I don't anymore. I haven't for a long time, and I'm not somebody that's taking mushrooms or interested in DMT trips or whatever, but I like to listen to the Third Eye Drops talk, because they talk a lot about the mythopoetic Platonism and stuff like that. So I'm going to be doing some more streams, hopefully just around like books that I've been reading. A lot of these books I hear somebody talk on a podcast, and then I just buy their book so that I can read more in depth what they're into, and I try and keep it diverse. Bruce MacDonald has some really interesting ideas about spirituality, and I've just been introduced to him very recently, but he's got a number of books as well. So if you want to leave me a comment and ask more about anything, I'm happy to engage. But this is just kind of, from now, I'm just practicing getting back into this. And I was thinking that's one thing I'll continue to do, is just talking about books. I got one recently called Monad, and I'm not gonna put a link to that right now, but I want to do a whole stream about that. It's translations of ancient texts, and I think that's what's so cool about studying history, because there's always a different perspective. It's hard to know exactly what's true about it, but I do find it fascinating to listen to different ideas and at least entertain them, to some degree, and then we have to go with our instincts about things. But I do really worry about people that get stuck in ideologies. It seems to be really limiting, and I thought growing up, when, not that racism wasn't a thing, but it just seems to be like so much worse now, which is strange to me. Why are we devolving? And I wonder if that's because this fear people have around being authentic. I'm not sure how to frame that exactly. I'm just sort of working all these things out again, and trying to find the best ways to sometimes play devil's advocate when it comes to talking to anybody that seems to have like a really hardline position. I may agree with them on many points, but I find it interesting to just gauge where are people at, and sometimes I'll say things that I don't actually agree with just to see how people react. And that's what my friend Ilya from Russia does on his Facebook. He and I just got back on Facebook like a few months ago, and I have like no friends because I just deleted my old one. And there were a lot of people I didn't want to add as friends. I mostly just added bands and music venues so that I can follow them and find out what shows are coming up, you know. But I've been watching my friend's Facebook, and he's so funny because he will say some sometimes wild shit, and it's just interesting to see how people get riled up on his comments. And I don't know that I want to do that, but maybe. I was talking to somebody this afternoon, and I said I was going to start streaming again, and he said that he would help me produce my streams so I could make them a little more legit than I used to. And he is really savvy technically, so I could be venturing into some like a little bit of entertainment kind of things, like sort of comedic. I don't know if I have the chops to really do it. I admire comedians. I don't know that I am one, but I like to think myself as hilarious. But yeah, I may just be mixing it up a little bit. I may do some of these more journal style rambling things, talking about books and movies and shows and whatever topic might come up for me. But I may get into actually having some friends as guests, maybe trying to interview some different people that I think are, just wanting to hear their perspectives. Not even saying that we agree or disagree on things. I just want to hear people's perspectives. And I don't really care if they're like famous. I don't want to interview the same people that go on all these big podcasts. I think that's interesting to follow, though. Like the comedian Joe Rogan bro people. Like they all had JD Vance on, and Rogan got Trump, and it's weird. You know, I never really want to be in a space like that. But I really like Duncan Trussell's podcast. I really like Tim Dillon's podcast. I don't always agree with them, but I just think that they're funny. Sam Tripoli is really funny and weird. And so, I just don't think I'm ever going to be that big or anything like that. But I'd like to talk to just, normal people like me. Just a dummy that doesn't know anything. But, I would like to think I have a good heart. And that's kind of my purpose, I feel like, in life, is to just, be kind. Like, be kind to that one person at work that looks like they need a hand. That's what got me word of mouth gigs for 20 years. I was never, I never had a glorious job working in broadcasting, but I worked with really good people, and if there was a show coming in from out of town that needed a crew, my position was usually the last to get booked. I would never travel, and I would just work locally for out-of-towners, and it would be like an audio technician or a camera person or someone else on the crew that was higher up than me that knew me locally, and they would suggest to hire me. So I had lots of great experiences for many years, getting challenged in that way to I'd always try and be the morale booster in some pretty stressful work environments. We would just get it done. And yeah, some of us would bitch and moan and cry and get stressed out, but we would get through it, you know, and in the end we would laugh about whatever. But I did lose a lot of friends when I stopped working in that field. And I'm just so grateful now that not only can I pay my bills for the most part, I can support myself, but I'm just so grateful I have a less stressful work environment, you know, and I get to be more of that morale booster to my kids. And my boss is really, really awesome. She supports me when I'm needing an extra hand with, you know, making it to a kid's school event or whatever might arise. So I'm really, really fortunate and counting my blessings for you know, my challenges. Because I've learned how to overcome some things that I kind of doubted I could at the time initially. So anyway, I do suggest checking out these links. I put them in the chat, but they're also in the description. Including Amazon sells these 3 books. I don't know that you could find them at a library or in PDF form, maybe Kindle form. But definitely listen to the podcast because it is an interesting idea that these aliens, there may be many different types. That's something that Bruce MacDonald alludes to that I'd like to learn more about. But I think this idea of some of them may be future humans coming back to Earth at this time. And I don't know how many of these accounts, how far back they go for abductions, sightings. That's why I need to actually read these freaking books. But like this case study number 1 is from 1932 in North Dakota, USA. 2 young boys, sons of German immigrants who lived in North Dakota. So, you know, you got to think like what journalism actually, its foundations were, is firsthand accounts. And if something sounded odd, you'd try and go out and corroborate that with finding another account. That's how we should be doing journalism. That's how we, you know, science should never be settled. History is not final. You know, there's always something new to discover once we get somebody else's point of view on it, maybe. And maybe there's all these grifters out there that are full of crap, you know, promoting the same people on a dozen different podcasts, spilling the same garbage. I don't know, but I am interested in listening to as much as I can handle, and open to discussion and open to changing my mind. You know, I never just want to, like, I do like to be correct, okay? I don't want to get things wrong. I don't want to repeat something that's completely off base. But I think it's okay to change our minds. And I just keep thinking about that. Like, if you can learn how to listen to things that really make you a little uncomfortable, and you just sit with it, and you decide, well, I'll look into that from different angles. You know, I won't just settle on it. I won't just reject it right away. Then that may be how we become more authentic. And potentially evolve, rather than what it seems like just devolving into like some mindless parrot. But the dogs really hate me talking to myself at this computer screen, so I'm gonna cut it off soon. I've been going for like 50 minutes, so that's awesome. CJ, thank you so much for doing your reading. That was really cool, talking about anarchy. And that's something that Bruce MacDonald touches on, is like this concept of natural law. Like, he lives up in the jungle in Costa Rica now. He's a Canadian expat. And I think if I were single or my kids were older, I might consider leaving the US, but I might just be stuck here watching it burn down. I sure hope that it doesn't, but you know, I just hope people can keep their cool through all this, keep their humanity, keep their heart. I know it's hard when we go through personal traumas, and all of us do. All of us have that. There's so many times I've acted in ways that, I mean, maybe you call it regret. I always try and learn from those moments where I acted shitty. And you can't always make amends, but you can definitely reflect and try and challenge yourself not to act that way again in the future. Maybe that's what the aliens are coming back to maybe they're trying to fix something. I mean, I don't know how bad it gets in the future. Maybe, I don't think we're supposed to know that. I don't think we would want to know that. But you know, I wonder if aliens will come down and like choose our new president for us, like our new global president or something. Maybe a benevolent king alien would be ideal for the world right now. I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. But yeah, I think this is gonna get to be really fun for me, because I've been journaling almost every day, sometimes a couple times a day, just jotting down whatever I've been doing. And that's been really therapeutic for me. So this is kind of just me processing and working things out. So if anybody watches this besides CJ, and I will try and do these more often. I can't say how often, but I'd like to ramp it up. I know that when I first started in 2022, I was trying to do a stream every day for a little while just to get myself into it. And I don't think I quite want to go that crazy, but I might. There might be so much crazy stuff to talk about. I don't know. We'll just have to see what happens. But thanks so much for checking this out. If you're still here an hour later, check out these books, check out these links. Bruce MacDonald, if anything else, he's just got a really unique perspective. I feel like he has just a good heart, and maybe you don't agree with him, but I've been listening to a lot of his podcasts today while I was working for hours, because I just like to zone out while I work and listen to stuff. And I just thought he was awesome. And when he mentioned Michael Masters and Repo Man, I was so stoked because I had heard of Michael Masters, I'd already had his books, and yet I'd never seen Repo Man. And I think that's so cool when you're introduced to something that's been around for a while and you never heard of it before. Like, that is what's awesome about the world these days, is just the access that we have for now to not just entertainment for mindless, boredom and just sitting around like a couch potato, but there are so many interesting things to discuss. So that's what I hope to do here in the future. And thanks again to CJ for being here and for being a huge inspiration for getting me back on here. And also thanks to my mom, because she's helped me so much this year get just lots of stuff fixed up around my house. We're going to do a lot more projects. I've been painting the walls, these crazy trippy murals, and doing tons of crafts with the kids, and really just having quite a lot of fun lately. So I hope to tell you a lot more about that in the future, and I hope that I can do some kind of creative productions that I've been wanting to do for years and years and years. And finally, my mom helped me get a new computer, and I got set up with OBS just today, and this is a very simple stream, but I was able to set it up in like just a few minutes, and everything appears to be working and sounding okay. So I am super grateful for that. Grateful for all the support that I have behind me, because none of us does anything alone. We need to discover things for ourselves, and a lot of us do have some limited support systems, but if you feel like you're alone, others do too, and we're here, like, we find each other. It's a miracle that we do, but that is the great thing these days. I got on a Discord server last year, and some of those folks, they fucking saved me. Like, my real friends that I knew in real life, they had jobs, and I didn't want to call them every day and cry about, the bullshit I was going through all the time. Like, it was people that had been strangers that were making me laugh when I couldn't sleep, and we could just talk in the middle of the night and bullshit about stuff. So it's a crazy time, but it's really interesting, and I've got a lot to be grateful for. So thanks, and I hope I will be back real soon. Good night.